All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on What the Sheet. And in today's episode, we are going to be working on my second bench over here. And I think in the previous episodes I mentioned I wanted to add some shelving underneath this just to add some more storage, mainly for some tools I don't use all the time, mainly like my track saw, my biscuit joiner, and some other kind of random tools, and also have a place to store my parts bin. So my screws and nails and stuff that I use kind of frequently, but then once I'm done with it, I want to put it somewhere where it's out of the way. So, like I said in previous videos, we're gonna put a bench here, or a shelf underneath. And the way we're gonna do that is two 2x4s running from one leg to the other all the way across to give me two rails, and that'll support my two Milwaukee pack ups that I bought for some bigger for the bigger tools like my track saw and biscuit joiner and all that jazz. So those two will fit underneath there on just the 2x4s. And then on this end, right here where this sheet of plywood is, my intentions are to do 2 half sheets of plywood to kind of make a sidewall. And then I'm going to build 2 drawers that'll fit this organizer. So this is a Stanley organizer, parts organizer, and that's what I keep all my Craig screws and my random wood screws from 3/4 all the way up to I think 2.5 inches. And so what I want to do is I have 2 slide out drawers where these will fit in perfectly, and then I'll have enough room to grab the handle of the organizer itself and just pull it out and then lift it up. You set it on the bench, grab whatever I need, and then when I'm done I can just set it back in there, push it out of the way, and it'll hopefully help keep my 2 workbenches cleaner than they are right now. Obviously it's still going to be a disaster in here because I don't have all the storage that I need, but we're working on making it a little better in slow iterations. Alright, so this is what this looks like on my computer, which is where I designed this originally. So this is my workbench. The red is the top, and then these are the legs, and then so this part right here, each one of these little yellow boxes you see is a mock-up of the parts organizer. It's all just based off the outside dimensions, nothing too specific. And then as you can see, I've got a little sheet of plywood on the inside here, and then another sheet of 1/2 inch plywood here, and a little bit of gap for the drawer slides, and then 2 drawers with enough space in between so there's not worry about anything getting caught up. And then these 2 big red boxes here on the left. Each one of these is the same size as the Milwaukee pack-out totes that I have, and they are designed to fit width-wise. So the wide face will be facing out. So if I need to, I can grab that front handle on them and pull them out, set them on top of the workbench, open them up, grab what I need to, close it, and then throw it right back underneath. But what I'm going to do is we'll get the bench rail, or that shelf rail started with the 2x4s. I'll get those cut to length, pocket hold, and installed on the bench. And it's a 12-inch gap from top to bottom, or from the bottom of the bench to the top of the rail. So once I get that in, then I can cut my 2 sheets of plywood for the drawer area, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I assemble the drawers and how I get the drawer sides put in so that they're square and they're not kind of all cattywampus, without having a super specialized jig or anything like that. So I'll be back once I get kind of the general stuff set up. So the 2x4s cut and installed, and the 1 sheet of plywood installed in the face, because then this one will be determined based off the drawers. So I'll be right back. All right, so we're on to building the drawers now. I've already got one made, and I'm going to kind of show you my little technique that I think might help you if you're trying to make drawers, especially with some 1/2 inch plywood. So what I do, I have all my pieces ready to go, and I'm actually using my 23 gauge pin nailer to attach these pieces before I do any of my drilling and stuff, because if you don't have a jig or a clamp or anything like that to kind of hold these on, it's a real pain to hold it with one hand and then try and drill and hope that this doesn't wiggle around. So all I do is I just took 2 little pin nails, put them on the ends, and now I can pick this piece up, and It's not going to hold it together super sturdy, but it's enough to where, you know, I can wiggle this around, I can move this around, and it's not going to fall off. And then I'll just take the back piece and we'll do the same thing. And we're just going to get this all lined up on our edges here. Grab our pin nailer, and hopefully I can do this one-handed. Boom. And then that one's on, and then we'll do the same thing over here. If I can. See if I can't get you wedged in my pouch here, so you can kind of see what's going on. So I'm just gonna squeeze these together and then make sure that I'm not gonna overshoot, and then just put another pin in. That way those are good. And now all I gotta do is just put my sides on, and it's, sorry about that, basically the same process. You just set your sides in, and with these it goes a little bit easier because then you can actually tip your drawer bottom up on one of your faces that you just pin nailed. So now that you got your two edges on your front and back, or let's say you did your sides first, now it's just a matter of sliding in your side pieces, putting, you know, 2 pins on the top and near the bottom on each end, and then once you get that together, you basically have a drawer that's completely assembled technically, but it's not fastened with anything. Then you just come back through, do your holes. So like on this finished one here, so after I pinned it all, I came back through with my my drill bit, and I drilled all these holes out, and then put my screws in, which actually are what's providing that strength all the way around. And you know, it makes assembling these drawers so much faster and so much easier. And especially if you're having to do a whole bunch of them. Let's say let's say I wanted to do a whole bank of drawers on this. I would definitely recommend using this technique, which is using that pin nailer to get your drawers basically assembled, and then coming back through and finishing with putting your screws in or whatever fastener you're using, even an 18 gauge nail, just getting those pins in right away just to get it together, and then come back through and doing your finish nailing or finish screwing, whatever it is you're going to do, makes it go that much easier, especially without having a clamp or any other kind of jig set up to do the assembly this way. And this really is good for when you're doing the butt joints like I'm doing. If you're doing like a rabbet or a dado joint where you have a groove cut in on the side here and your drawer bottom is just sliding in, not as big of a deal, but you can still do it when you're putting your sides together. So if you're still doing a butt joint on your sides, just pinning it first to get them together, and then come back through and screwing or nailing after the fact will help just make that assembly go just a little bit quicker and a little less of a headache for you. And it just, you know, any little things that we can do with any project, even a small project like this where I'm only making 2 drawers for my shop, you know, it helps in the long run, especially if you plan on making bigger projects or doing kind of more repetitive type tasks like this. So I'm gonna get this one finished and assembled, and then I'll get the drawer sides mounted on one, and I'll show you kind of how I do that. All right, so I'm gonna show you how I put on drawer slides without using any kind of fancy jigs or anything like that, and without doing a whole lot of measuring. So what I do typically is, depending on the drawer, obviously, a good, and also depending on your slide here, is you want to make sure that your slide, when it's all assembled on the side here, that it's not below your drawer bottom. In some cases you can kind of get away with it, but most cases you want to be above the bottom edge. So for example, on this one, I've already assembled it. You can see that I've got about, you know, probably a good 1/4 inch spacing between the bottom of the slide and the bottom of the drawer bottom itself. And that's so if when you have them stacked, and let's say you have drawer faces and all that stuff on there, when you're pulling this drawer out if the slide rail is below the bottom of the drawer, you run the risk of catching the drawer below it, or the drawer above it, however you have your drawer set up. And going with that, instead of coming in here with my pencil and trying to measure a specific distance and all that stuff, what I'm going to use is a scrap piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I have laying around. And all I do is I just set this on the bottom edge here, get it all nice and lined up as best I can, and then I'll pull that rail piece down and then get that front to line up just behind the front edge of the drawer front. And if I was putting a solid piece of plywood up here, or like a drawer face, you might want to kick this back just a touch more, just so you make sure you have that clearance between your face and your drawer slides, because you don't want to install your drawer slides and put your drawer face on and then realize that your drawer slides stick out too much, and then you got to do some reworking. So it's always safe just to have them push back just a touch, and you want them to be as close to even on both sides as you can. So all I do is line up this 3/4 inch plywood on the edge of the bottom, make sure it's nice and flush as best I can with my fingers, and then I'll just gently squeeze the slide against the plywood. And then I have a self-centering drill bit, and I bought this at Menards for probably $5 or $10. Not super expensive. It only goes like 1/2 inch deep at the most, but it's enough of a depth and the right thickness on the bit inside there that it'll basically pre-drill my hole on the front here. And then for putting the actual drawers themselves in my little spot here, what I'm going to do is I'll cut a piece of plywood that's I think my gap is about 5 inches, 5.5 inches or so, and I'll cut that so it's long enough to reach all the way across, and I'll just lay that up here, and I'll take the other half. So this half of the drawer side, so this is the piece that's going to connect here. So I'll take this with that sheet of plywood there, and then I'll just set that up here, set my front edge just behind the front edge of the actual plywood itself. Do the same thing, pre-drill my holes with that self-centering bit. All right, so we got them assembled. Everything's put together. I got my sidewall here put up with pocket screws, and the way I did that is I put the side rails on for the drawer size on each level, and then I basically double checked that width with the drawer size attached to 18.5 inches, and then I marked it on the 2x4 here. Set the bottom in. I just put a clamp right here. Slid this drawer in just to double check to make sure that everything was good before actually I screwed anything down. Everything was good. I screwed the bottom in, put this drawer in, double checked it one more time, make sure it was good. And then for the top, all I basically did was screwed it in and kind of watched where this was flexing up top here. And then once I found out where the drawer was moving smoothly and everything like that, I just pulled this out just a touch more, so I gave a little bit more free space, and then put the screws in on the top, on the front, and the back side. Everything's good to go now. And these drawer slides work perfect the way I want them, where I can fully extend this drawer and open the lid for this bin, and I don't have to pull it out. And another reason why I like this bin, and part of the reason why I got this bin, was I can pull these containers out individually. So let's say I need 1 5/8" screws for whatever I'm working on. Instead of having to carry this whole thing around or have it sitting on my workbench, open it up, and then dig in here and grab my screws, I can just come over here, pull this drawer out, open that up, grab my screws, either a handful out of the thing or grab the whole container itself. And then once I'm done, it's just as simple as that. Just push it in. I don't even have to latch it if I don't want to. And then I'll have to get another one of these, and that one will go down here. And I can either put more screws of a different variety, or some more kind of knick-knacky stuff like nuts and bolts, nails, things of that nature that I use relatively often, but not as often. And then over here, like I said, we're going to put my Milwaukee packouts. And I want to have something in the middle here just because putting them in and out, if I don't have anything in there, I got to really manhandle it and kind of be careful with it. So my plan is to take my router and I'm going to router a groove along the edges of the inside and the out and the back there. And then I have this chunk of 3/4 inch plywood that's left over from another project, and I'll rip it down to fit basically in this gap here, and that'll keep this whole level the same at 12 inch spacing from the top to the bottom here, which is just enough room for these big guys. And that way I'll have a nice flat surface all along here for these to slide in and out on. And I'm not going to put drawer slides or anything like that. These are more of a kind of a long-term storage solution for some of the tools I don't use, like my big router that's in that bag there, and like I said earlier, my biscuit joiner, dowel jigs, and all that other stuff, and even my track saw, which I'm hoping I can get the tracks to fit in here at least at an angle. Hopefully, otherwise they'll just sit next to it, which isn't a big deal. But that'll conclude today's video. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments. And if you have any recommendations on things I could do to make this better, if you want me to put drawer faces on, if you want me to put some trim on my bench to make it look a little bit nicer, or you got another idea that I could do in here to help with my organized chaos that I got going on, feel free to let me know. And other than that, I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.